One last report tool is MUR analysis, which is used to analyze individual stops. And we have two main parts we're looking at here. They are MTBF, which stands for mean time between failure. That's when you measure how often do a type of stop or problem occur. How much time is spent from one to the next on average. And the other value we can look at is the mean time to failure, or in other words, the length of each stop. And for the mean time to failure, when we're looking at stop length, for example, setup time, that's not a failure, but it's a typical information you want to look at. I have opened it here. This tool you can find in MUR client from the MUR analysis icon. And here I have selected a time interval. I've selected one machine. I've selected one stop code, which is the setup. And I've selected all shifts like this. And then we're looking at stop length. And what we see here, when these options are configured, we can see a graph here. And we also see the timeline that is for the selected machine. And what we see on the graph is a histogram, a frequency diagram that shows bars indicates a number of stops. So for example, here this bar says 2. It shows that there are 2 stops that has a stop length between 40 and 45 minutes. And this bar, and we have 3 stops with length between 45 and 50 minutes. And when I select a stop code here, you can also see them highlighted with a blue marker. So for a typical setup where you have this same type of preparations, you expect all setups to take about the same time. In this graph you can see some bars in the middle shows where the typical setup time is, and you have 2 faster setup and you have 3 slightly longer setups here. So this will give you an visual indication of what is the typical setup time, and is it close to the same time or can it vary a lot. And finally, if you have some outliers like this one here is quite much longer, you can easily see it in the graph, and when I click it, it highlights here when it occurred on Tuesday morning. The other option is MTBF. It works slightly similar, but now we're not looking at length of stops, but we're looking at time between stops. So these bars indicates the time from one stop occurred until the next time, and until the next and next. So we have 1, 2, 3 intervals here represented by 3 bars. Now, if you're only interested in the number and not the graph, you can use the web version of the report, which we find here. You find it on reports, MTBF, MTTR. There you select machine, time interval, shifts, and which stop code you want to look at. And when you generate the report, you are not asked if you want MTBF or MTTR. Instead, it will calculate both at the same time. And depending on what type of stop you're looking at, for example, in repairs, you might be interested in both. You might be interested in how often do repairs occur and how long do they take. So on average, they occur every about 12 hours, and each repair takes about 1.5 hours. So you can quickly get these numbers from the web MTBF MTTR report.